Hi guys, so we're gonna continue on with Hope Never Dies again today. I feel like I sound like a teacher each time I do that. So we just ended chapter 4, or 3. We're going into chapter 4, and Biden's trying to make some decisions, trying to figure out what to do next. Let's jump to it. Alright, chapter 4. Just before 11 a.m., that is. The last one, it was morning time. Yeah. Just before 11, I strolled into Earl's Hash House down on 8th and Washington in Quaker Hill. It was a classic diner, the kind that only served one type of coffee, black. If you ordered an orange mocha frappuccino, you'd be given a side eye that would make you wish you had never been born. At one point, presumably, Earl's had been a new establishment, but nobody remembers when that was. It was old when I was a kid. It was even older now. Some people probably said the same about Dan Caprioti, C-A-P-R-I-O-T-T-I. Capritori? He was waiting for me at the long counter, dressed in a maroon leather jacket and blue jeans. The same outfit he'd been wearing since the early 70s. These days, his thick black hair was dyed and his sneakers were orthopedic. Hey, I'm 28 and my sneakers are orthopedic. Gotta take care of your knees, okay? Otherwise, he looked much like he had this last time I'd seen him, more than a decade ago. Right down to the dinged-up detective badge clipped to his belt loop. He called me that morning and said he had some information about the Donnelly case. Off record. I'd just finished my walk and was about to step into the shower. If that's about the map, he interrupts me. It's not about the map. I didn't know many cops down at the station these days. There'd been a major turnover while I'd been out of town, as Wilmington tried unsuccessfully to shed its image as a murder town, USA. Fortunately, Dan and I went way back. If only he'd been the one to find the map. He could have called me directly and saved Barack the trouble. You're here by yourself, Dan said, shaking my hand. Firmly, a cop handshake. My wife's got a class, I said. I meant no security, no Secret Service. I'm just a private citizen these days. You don't seem too nervous for someone who might have been in the crosshairs of a madman. I glanced around. The guy behind the counter was busy at the register. Let's find someplace more private to talk, I said. We took a vinyl booth in the back. My eyes flicked over the menu, which I knew by heart. Nothing ever changed inside these walls, which were plastered with graffiti dollar bills. I signed a few once upon a time. They were still behind the counter somewhere. There were only a few other people in the diner, mostly the old geezers who showed up day after day for coffee and toast. They bicker about the day's news until they wore themselves out. I'd always seen myself becoming a part of a crew like that someday. The next sentence, you guys. Me, Barack, W, maybe Jimmy Carter, if he wasn't too busy peanut farming. He doesn't even own his peanut. He lives 2 hours south of here. He's a good man. The waitress stopped by to take our orders. Pie a la mode, I said. Hold the pie, Deborah. She heard the joke before. I still get a kick out of it. The good jokes never get old. 1 scoop of vanilla for the wise guy, she said. And how about you, hon? Dan tapped his coffee. Just the worm dirt. I'm watching my figure. After the waitress left, Dan leaned across the table. So how well did you know this conductor? I used to write his line. I knew him well enough. Did you know what he was into? I raised an eyebrow. I can't raise my eyebrows. The toxicology reports aren't back yet, Joe. But it's pretty likely he was high as a kite when the train hit him. He may have even been dead already. Now, the cause of death is listed as pending on the death certificate, but hold up. You're saying he was on something? He didn't even drink as far as I knew. Dan shrugged. Maybe he didn't drink, but he definitely liked to party. I don't understand. We found heroin, a little baggie in one of his back pockets. I fingered the rosary on my wrist. I'm a fucking pervert, you assholes. I'm sorry. Alright. That doesn't make a lick of sense. At 63, a 63-year-old man with a wife and daughter doing heroin, when he knows he'll be tested as part of his job? And he was so close to retirement age? I was trying to speak in a hushed voice, but I was having a hard time. I bet dollars to donuts you won't find a trace of drugs in his system. And if I were a betting man, I'd take you up on that offer. Just because he'd been tested in the past doesn't mean a thing. All it takes is some back pain and prescription for Oxy. 2 or 3 months later, they move on to something cheaper. And the only thing that's cheaper is heroin. Jesus. When will you get the blood test back? 6 to 8 weeks. Could you expedite the testing? That is the expedited time frame. The waitress brought my ice cream and refilled Dan's coffee. I tried to make sense of what he told me. Heroin used to be the drug of choice for jazz musicians and beatniks. But not anymore. Opiate addiction was a growing problem while Barack and I were in office. By the time we realized how spread the problem was, it was too late. It had reached epidemic proportions. It was a new reality that I still wasn't used to. The investigation is being handled personally by Lieutenant Esposito, Dan said. A good cop? A little rough around the edges, but not as rough as I was. Word is she's in line for the chief's job, once he retires. In all of Dan's years with the force, he had never been promoted above detective. He was effective, but he made more headlines for his unorthodox methods than for his bust. He reminded a lot of people of Dirty Harry, which was only fitting since there were rumors that Clint Eastwood had based his performance off of Dan Capitone. I don't know. This angle really shows off my bags. Where was I? Okay. He sipped his coffee. Listen, Joe. We've been friends for a long time. I know the paper with your address is hinky. I know you're concerned. More befuddled than anything. Then I'll give it to you straight. Forget the map for now. If this turns out to be anything more than a junkie passing out at the wrong place at the wrong time, I'll eat a crow. Finn Donnelly was no junkie. I guess we'll see. You said Esposito's handling this personally. Should I get in touch with her directly if I have any questions, or... Dan nearly sprayed his coffee across the table. That's the last thing you should do. Wait, I put in a whole new sentence. That's the last thing you'd want to do. You're better off going through me. She isn't too happy about the whole thing, especially with the Secret Service sniffing around. Dan didn't sound happy either. Local police didn't like it when the feds flew in and started throwing their weight around. Of course, the Secret Service wasn't actually running an investigation. That was just a smokescreen. I could have told Dan the truth, but I didn't want word to spread back at the station that the national security storyline Barack and I had cooked up was an empty threat. At least not until after the funeral. Then they could talk all they wanted. Thanks for meeting me, Dan. I wish I had something to share with you about the service investigation, but that's above my pay grade. All I know is that they ran some checks on Finn, and they all came back clean. If they found something, could you even tell me? If something's classified, they're not going to share it with me either. I'm just a private citizen. I paused. By the way, am I sure you or one of your co-workers has also talked to Finn's family? Do you know what they have to say about all this? A couple of detectives have been in contact with the daughter, but we're keeping her in the dark. No one's mentioning the drugs or the map to your house. So the daughter doesn't know a thing. What about his wife? Are you joking? Swear on the grave of Jean Finnegan Biden. I haven't heard a thing. Did they split up? It must have been a while since you talked to Flynn. I saw him briefly last time I rode the ACL, 7 or 8 weeks ago. We didn't get a chance to talk though. Huh. She's still at the assisted living facility. He never said a word about that. He didn't tell you about her stroke? Not a word. Dan set his coffee down. She's paralyzed on her right side and unresponsive. Even if there was a break in the storm, even if she was suddenly able to say something as simple as a yes or no, I doubt she could help us. I told him I'd let him know if I heard anything from the Secret Service, some stray fact or insight that might help him tie up the case and earn brownie points with his boss. The look of wariness on his face, however, told me that he wasn't expecting a call. He was probably right about the map being nothing to worry about. If that was the only suspicious piece of evidence, I might have been able to put it out of my mind. But Finn, involved with drugs? He was a teetotaler, same as me. Something wasn't right. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "The moral arc of the universe was long and bent towards the side of justice. By the time the universe got to righting the wrongs in Wilmington, however, I feared that it would be too late, not just for Finn or the city, but for all of us." I left without touching my ice cream. And that ends chapter 4. So we're starting to get a little juicy now, a little bit more in depth in the story. And yeah. And just like last time, I want to know, like, why do you think were the drugs planted, maybe? Why he'd be in that place at that time, the guy who died, and what Biden's going to do about it. This detective is going to be seen later, or what. I'd love to hear it. And you know the drill. Comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I will see you back in Chapter 5 of Hope Never Dies. Bye, you guys.